Hello, hello. I'm Natalie Webster, and this is Chat with Nat, where I get to talk about all the fabulous things happening in and around the Lake Minnetonka area, as well as speak to the fabulous people doing these things. And today, you might remember Laura Hotvet from the Excelsior-Lake Minnetonka Chamber of Commerce. She was the executive director of that for many years. And many people have been wondering, hey, where's Laura? What's happening with Laura? We haven't heard a lot from Laura. Well, today, people, I bring you Laura Hotvet. She's going to join me and share what she's been doing since she moved on from the chamber. And she's been up to some pretty cool things. I got to tell you that. So hello, Laura.
Hi, Natalie. It's great to see you.
You too. I am looking forward to seeing you in person sometime soon.
Oh, me too. Me too.
Yes.
Need a big hug.
I know. Absolutely. It's kind of awkward now. I remember my sister telling me, you need to get consent before you hug people now. And I'm like, what do you mean? Then, early on, then I understood. It's like, oh, are you hugging? How you ask people, are you hugging?
You go and it's like awkward.
I know it is. It's weird. What bothers me is my grandson's getting used to now not coming up and, giving me a hug, which is not okay. And this is temporary and it'll all be fine. It'll all completely change. I just don't want a 3-year-old to maintain that habit. One thing I've been doing, I don't know if you've been doing this, I'll go into Kowalski's and, we're all masked. And my sister lives in Excelsior, and I run into her often at Kowalski's. And I've had at least twice where I've gone up and gone behind. I went behind. I can't believe I'm admitting this. I went behind one woman. You know how you go behind someone and you hit them in the back of the knees with your knees? So they kind of I thought it was my sister, and I went behind her and I buckled her knees, and she was like, oh, and I'm like, oh, you are not Lana, and I'm so sorry.
Oh my gosh. Was that when security was called?
No, not that time. Not that time. I always say that, South Lake Minnetonka Police Department and I have a very good understanding of what I can and I cannot do. But she did say, why would you do that to your sister?
Only someone with a sister knows that.
I know, exactly. So super excited. So now I have to share, I got to give a little bit of a background story for people who are joining us. Again, I'm Natalie Webster. This is Chat with Nat, where I talk about all things Lake Minnetonka. We stream onto multiple channels on Facebook as well as YouTube. And this is Laura Hotvet, who currently she's working as a commercial real estate agent with Bill Wolfson Commercial Real Estate. And she's going to fill us in on where she's going with that. But I want to share with how I met Laura. Laura and I have worked together on and off for years. But many moons ago, Laura and I share a connection with a certain handsome actor named Andrew Shue.
True.
And you might be wondering, what do Natalie Webster, Laura Hotvet, and Andrew Shue have in common? And these other ladies, if you're watching, you probably recognize them from the Lake Minnetonka area. Let's see if we can remember them. Laura, I'm the worst with names. So this is Deb, right? Standing in the white jacket. There's Laura.
And, with the big earrings. Those were all the rage in early 2000s. Yep. Lisa Sumner, a dear friend and coworker at the time with mom.com, and Kristen Cotting.
Yes.
Who now lives in California and is on to really fun things.
Oh, I didn't know that. And I'm there in the white. And of course, the gentleman there, that's Andrew Shue.
That is.
So the reason why we were with him is Laura and I back in the day. And this was actually, you know what? It was 2013.
Oh.
It was 2013.
It's all blending.
Yeah, I remember because that's when my mom passed. Do you remember? And it's like, you were so great at that time. So it was 2012, 2013. And Andrew Shue, a lot of people don't know, he actually owns a company called mom.com, which is huge online, great platform. And he was expanding into a different market. And Laura and I were working for him for a period of time. And we were doing some events. And Andrew came to town and he was on My Talk 107.1. He was on Twin Cities Live. And Laura and I got to drive him around and go to these things. And then we had this whole, remember the party? We had the whole party. Oh, I don't know about you, but I was in love with that man when he was on Melrose Place back in the day. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. It doesn't age. Look at him.
No. And he's so cute. He's just, he is just ridiculously yummy.
A little bit of dreaminess right there.
I know.
The original McDreamy.
Yeah, truly. And, wicked smart too. I mean, he created this whole company. It was incredible. But so this is how I got to know Laura, is we were working with this company with Andrew Shue back in the day and doing our best to not be inappropriate.
Right. Let's not say who's next to him to his left. I'm not sure what's happening back there.
Yeah, somebody may or may not have her hand near his buttocks. And it was accidental. I'm from Hawaii. We're huggers, man. We love to hug people. And, I don't know what happened. I'm just hoping that I don't get Me Too'd by him. Can you imagine that call? I doubt he's watching. But it was super fun.
Too, Natalie.
Yeah, everybody. I had my hand on Kristen's butt. I mean, your hands just go over there. I'm an equal opportunity butt hugger. That doesn't sound right. So we're going to move on from that. So that's how I got to know Laura. We were hanging out with Andrew Shue, doing our thing for a while. And then we moved on to different things. I went to work for My Talk. I actually ended up doing a radio show for a while. And
you left an impression with them.
Yes. Probably.
Like you do most people. People do not forget you, Natalie.
For one reason or another, I'm memorable.
All good. You are memorable.
So then, Laura, you went on to work for the Chamber as the executive director for the Excelsior-Lake Minnetonka Chamber of Commerce for many years. So I'm sure if you're watching from anywhere around Lake Minnetonka, you know Laura from that. She ran the Chamber event for many years. And last year, with the pandemic, like everyone, like many organizations, the Chamber got hit really hard and downsized. And Laura moved on. And now you're in a whole nother, it's interesting because it's a whole different line of work, but really it's not too different from what you actually have been doing. So why don't you share with us what that is that you've been doing?
Well, I feel like I'm at a sporting event. That's fun.
I love live. Here we go.
So when March came along and we were busy feverishly planning for our 2020 Bridgewater Bank Luck of the Lake event, which is kind of the kickoff event for the year for our communities, we all know what happened. COVID hit. And so we had to kind of immediately change our direction. And for the next few months, try to figure it out. And what ultimately ended up being the best thing for the community is to downsize our staff, and which kind of gave me a chance to sort of do something officially that I've always loved. It's always been my favorite part of, other than seeing people in the community, but making the connections of spaces and places and people. And if I had one word to define myself, it is being a connector. And that's fun for me. So I took the opportunity to step away from the chamber. And it's been really great seeing all the information that the chamber's been disseminating into the community. And Jen Weiss is doing a wonderful job as the executive director now. But I took the opportunity to get my real estate license, and my good friend Bill Wolfson, who has been heavily involved with the chamber for many years as well. He was president for a year, and he and I worked very well together. So he always said, hey, if you ever want to switch lanes, come on over. We would make a great, you would be a great addition to my team. And I always loved that part of being the executive director of the chamber. And so now I am a licensed realtor and on the Bill Wolfson commercial team with a few other wonderful people. And it's just been kind of a natural, I'm not even going to say turn. It's just sort of an added on element to what I've always loved doing. So it's been a blast. And so I am on his team now with Coldwell Banker Realty in Wayzata, out of the Wayzata office.
Which, it's crazy because I didn't even realize. I know that when I first spoke to you and found out that you were doing commercial real estate, that we were at the same brokerage. We both work for Coldwell Banker Wayzata. And I forgot about it. And then when Bill emailed me last night and he's like, hey, CB team. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right.
We're a team again.
I forget because I really feel that, we're all one team when it comes to Lake Minnetonka and the community and the businesses and, real estate or not. We all work together cooperatively. Now, in commercial real estate, you... and, especially in the Lake Minnetonka area, you're going to be privy to a lot of the comings and the goings of businesses. And I know that you can't always say when a specific business is signing on or coming. And so, what we're going to do is I'm going to check back regularly with Bill and Laura so we can kind of share some of the business side from a commercial real estate perspective of what's going on. And Laura was telling me something interesting about retail space around Lake Minnetonka and kind of expanding out, Minnetonka, Shorewood, et cetera. And how you were saying spaces really are filling up because we've been wondering with the pandemic and everything, and you hear of businesses closing. But at the same time, there are quite a few that are opening. We've got the, in Excelsior, the Faribault Woolen Mill, I think it is, that's moving into the new Hotel Excelsior building. And is there any kind of insight you can give us? What are you seeing from your perspective?
Well, the City of Excelsior's business district has always been a hot zone for space. People really are always wanting to move their business there, whether it's a retail space, a restaurant space, an office space. And, it has so many benefits to what people are looking for. It's a destination, it's an attraction. And what I think we're seeing is people are getting very creative with space. And the idea of being close to home, is not just the downtown central business district of Excelsior, but you can see development happening all around the shores of Lake Minnetonka. People are innovating. They're taking this time to kind of figure out what they want to do and where they want to be, and opportunities are rising up. So it's been, people want to be here. It's it has. We all know that who are lucky enough to be a part of a community in this area, and it's fun. So
do you think how much space, I mean, not square footage wise, but it seems that there's definitely room there. Well, there are some places that are actually already leased, but the new businesses have not moved in yet. Going down Highway 7, we were chatting about on 101, when you look at the Big Thrill Factory, that the space is possibly leased, but we don't know who's going in there yet. So sometimes it'll look like a space is open or dead, and it is, but it doesn't mean that something's not coming and that's in the works. We just can't talk about it yet.
Right. It does. It takes a lot longer than you think to complete a real estate transaction. That was something that was a little hard for me because I have the sense of urgency and like, let's get it done. And that's been a learning curve for me, Natalie.
Oh, yeah. No, myself as well. Anything, when I decide to do something, I decide to do it. And then in the next breath, I'm doing it.
Me too.
And I'm very literal too. So if you tell me, if we're sitting there, say if we're having dinner and we were going to watch a movie afterwards and you say, well, let's go watch that movie. I will immediately stand up and go. And whoever I'm with often's like, whoa, like slow your roll there. I'm like, well, you said, let's go watch the movie. I'm like,
Right.
not like
Exactly.
now.
I know. We get things done. We're doers.
We do. We get things done. That's why we're good at our jobs. But also recognizing that sometimes, when someone's like, well, I'm thinking about selling my house, or, I'm thinking about, I want to start a new business and I want to see what spaces are available around Lake Minnetonka. There's often a very, a little bit of a runway. But what's exciting is what I think we've been seeing around in the area, to your point, Laura, is more people really embracing how the pandemic is changing what we need in terms of what businesses we need, what resources that we need as well. I think the Hotel Excelsior is a good example of that. They are a bit more, really what they are is, if you go back and you look at when there was a hotel back in the, what was it, late 1800s, early 1900s, they kind of followed that model of, few rooms upstairs. It wasn't the big, giant traditional hotel that you think of. And so the Hotel Excelsior is throwing back to that time by just having 4 suites upstairs. But what the pandemic has shown us is people are now looking for that more VRBO friendly experience where there's not a lot of contact. You can go in at the Hotel Excelsior, you're going to set your own key lock on the door. There's not going to be where you have to meet with a bunch of people. So I think in businesses around Lake Minnetonka, we're going to see things changing with what's coming into certain spaces. And how do you think that might change and how certain spaces are being utilized? Like the Hotel Excelsior, no one had lived upstairs in that space for 30 years and they renovated it. Do you have any feel for or idea or instinct on, how maybe some of these spaces can be used in a different way to meet as we pivot? Because even though events are starting to happen again, we're not going full blown like we were. The landscape is still changing.
Mm-hmm. And I think it will be changing for a while here. I think, the only thing constant is change. And I think you can see how creativity has flooded businesses, and people are meeting the needs of people during this pandemic. And I think most people like myself, I'm looking for an experiential, outing, something that's fun, something fun to do, that's safe, that's, you look at, the Hewing Hotel downtown Minneapolis in the Warehouse District. Well, they're booking their rooms to be private dinner suite for 2, or, it's sort of an experience that is proven to be safe and fun at the same time. I think office space is oftentimes talked about in the news, like what's happening to all these offices? Well, what we are hearing on the commercial real estate front is that real estate leases are not decreasing, as I think the fear is. It's just are trying to figure out how to meet the needs of their employees and how to kind of repurpose their existing space. Maybe it becomes more of a gathering, a collaborative space. It's not so much how many employees can we fit into this teeny tiny office space and you're breathing on each other all down the rows. I think it's going to be fun to see this sort of reuse and repurpose and kind of redirection of what the office space looks like in the future.
Don't you think our outdoors too, yesterday I was talking with Becky Pearson from the Wayzata Chamber, and I know you both worked together closely when you were the executive director of the Excelsior-Lake Minnetonka Chamber. And we were talking about the Panaway and how, that project was underway for a long time, definitely before the pandemic. But the way it's set up now in that great open space really lends itself to being, pandemic friendly. So I think it's really interesting that some of these changes we were starting to make or we've made kind of line up with what our new normal is going to look like, what our world moving forward is going to look like. And in Wayzata, with the Panaway, I think that's a good example of that. Having a larger outdoor space, having, the bathrooms right there and available, having where you can, have multiple ways to get to the docks. They're building that kind of, I always want to call it a bridge, but I think it's a walkway or something between the two. Boardwalk. That's the word I was looking for. And then the band shell in Excelsior is getting a complete workover at the Commons. And that's going to look very different as well. How do you think or even personally feel about some of the, because around Lake Minnetonka, we want to preserve, the history, and sometimes people don't like change. I like change on most things. Some things I don't like change. I like to eat the same thing almost every day. I like routines and schedule. But when it comes to outside in my environment, and I love, the change and the growth, and I've lived, most people know I was born and raised in Hawaii, but I've called Minnesota home for 25 years and predominantly in the Lake Minnetonka area. And there's that finding that comfort zone of maintaining the historical charm, but recognizing that growth is going to happen. So how do we maintain that charm? How do we keep it where people who've lived here for such a long time, we have families around Lake Minnetonka that have been here for generations, and you don't want them being taxed out, of their family home.
Right.
So kind of where do you see things going, from that perspective of with growth? We're not opening big box stores and things like that, in Excelsior, but there are, changes are a-coming.
Right. Well, I think what we realized throughout this time is that we're stronger and more durable than we think. I mean, look at what has survived being outside in the winter. We probably were getting a little bit soft prior to the pandemic during winter, just going inside. And I hope some of those outside areas year round stay. I think that's been really fun. You just need the proper gear, right?
Yeah, you do. That's what I kept being told from someone.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't go outside in winter. I mean, still I rarely do, but till just a few years ago, and it was that proper gear. So do you think that, look at like Maynard's, Olive's Pizza, even restaurants around Wayzata and even in Mound, they're creating these outdoor seating areas where they're putting heating lamps out there. And because we had to, Excelsior Brewery, they got those clams there. I think, and this is what I think you're saying too, is that this is going to stick around, not so much because we have to, but because if there's anything I've learned about Minnesotans is you guys are crazy in a good way.
That's right.
You look winter in the face and you're like, I'm going to make you my rhymes with witch.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. So do you think that's going to stick around?
Well, I hope so. I do. I think we found that we can survive in a variety of situations year round outdoors. And I think when you ask about, what sort of changes and how do you see kind of the future, I think you follow those businesses that have, quote, pivoted and survived and maybe even are thriving, we hope, with creating new spaces, new ways of doing things. And I hope that our municipalities take note and maybe flex themselves a little bit to change some of the rules and regulations that might in normal times prohibit some of that sort of creative gathering spaces and such. So I think, this has proven that outdoor space is important, fresh air is important, circulation is important, retrofitting spaces with the proper ventilation is important. I mean, those are what people want to know is happening in their inside spaces. And that could be, difficult with some of these historical buildings. And so I think, just flexing, everybody just needs to just maybe take a step back, take a deep breath, and kind of figure out what is going to be good for the community. And I think looking at things, following the successful businesses and following what people are doing is a wise thing to do.
It is. I think it started out, we needed to bundle up and eat outdoors with these heating lamps and fire pits. But now it's kind of fun. And I think that is going to stick around. And I actually think that's really cool. What do you think? Or, one thing I want you to share about, and this kind of goes back to your experience as when you were the executive director for the Excelsior-Lake Minnetonka Chamber. You put on a ton of events. And I think one thing a lot of people don't realize is the work it takes to put those events on, from 4th of July to every one of the 5Ks going on, the 4th of July one, the St. Patrick's Day one, and so on. But the need for the volunteers, the chamber, especially right now, Jan Weiss, you were saying, is now running the chamber and she's doing a great job, and she's building it back up. But there's still a lot of need for volunteers as we go back to trying to put on more of these events. And I don't think a lot of people realize that even back in the day when we used to have Girls' Night Out, it was completely put on by volunteers. Business owners who were on the committee for that volunteered their time to create, market, and run these events. Other businesses, put in money to promote it and whatnot. So the local business owners in our community, many of them, they're not just running their own business. They're involved in their chamber, be it Wayzata or, Excelsior, and they're creating these events. Can you share a little bit about what it takes to pull off an event like the 4th of July and the need for, the community cooperation, but also volunteering?
Yeah, so many years of event planning. I was always explaining kind of the process. It was like, this past summer when unfortunately the 4th of July celebration, as we've known it since the late 1800s, had to be canceled. We just could not, hold it safely and staff it with volunteers safely. And the planning process for an event of that magnitude that's beloved in the community, it takes, it starts July 5th, the year prior. And, it's lining up sponsors. It is gathering volunteers, which you spoke about. And a lot of our volunteers are regulars. They love to volunteer at all the events in the community. And I'm sure it is this way for Becky and the staff at the Wayzata Chamber. And, you cannot guarantee it's being done. You don't know who our volunteers will be coming in contact with. You just cannot set it up safely in the days right now, pre-vaccination and that sort of thing. So
because it takes so much time, right, ahead of time. So you're planning. Once 4th of July ends, you're working on 4th of July for the next year.
Yes. And there's a lot of things that lead up to it. Obtaining sponsorships, which is difficult at this time because a lot of the businesses aren't sure, what their runway is like. So it is a trickle down process that involves many, many facets. And our Rotary Club, the Excelsior Morning Rotary Club, for example, holds an event in the spring, Bingo and Burgers by the Bay, which the main recipient is the chamber, the Excelsior-Lake Minnetonka Chamber. And they raise a lot of money to put towards the fireworks as well as the other parts of the celebration. And without that, it is understandably very difficult to hold such an event.
Yeah, I think, if you take away anything, just really remember that these events are put on by a lot of volunteers and a lot of business owners volunteering their time and a lot of local businesses paying for them to actually happen. And we have different community fundraisers all across Lake Minnetonka to support these things. So continue to support them when you can. And just be patient and recognize that, sometimes we're just going to have to pivot. And this is new to everyone. There's not exactly a guidebook for, when you're in the middle of the pandemic in this day and age. We're all doing it kind of for the first time together. Natalie, a fellow Natalie, which gets me really excited. Betancourt asked if she says, "Hi, ladies. Is the Apple Festival in Excelsior still in the works this year?" I don't know. Do you know, Laura? I don't know. That's September, right?
Yeah, and I don't know either. I mean, certainly watch. I know Jen's been updating the website frequently, so certainly take a look at that, Natalie, and just watch. I mean, like Natalie, like you said, there's no toolkit. When we canceled the Bridgewater Bank Look of the Lake I don't even know, when was it? Last year. And we were one of the first events for St. Patrick's Day that had to make that call. And that was very difficult. And it was 2 days away and we had this COVID. So we just have to be patient, as you say.
Yeah, I think the intention is to do it. I know that having spoken to, Becky and Wyzetta, and I reached out to Jan. I want to get Jan on to talk about some of the Excelsior-Lake Minnetonka Chamber events, and that'll be a good one. Other Natalie, we'll make sure I ask her about Apple Day, because that really is a good one. You got to do that pie contest, which, I
know.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And have Marjorie back.
Yes.
Little Marjorie Johnson.
She's got to be, didn't she hit 100?
She did. So,
she's got to be like 101. And then who always wins the pie contest? It's Andrew. Andrew Punch. Yeah. And his famous pie, which, by the way, Andrew is still waiting for one of your pies. You know where to find me, man. We're friends on Facebook.
It is. It's these traditions that make our community just a wonderful place. And not only, Apple Day, but I mean, the tradition of going down and getting an ice cream cone and eating it on the public docks, wherever you are. I mean, these are signs of home, and we all are craving to get back to something that we recognize. And I think it's there. It's coming.
Yeah, hopefully by September, because again, Apple Day isn't until September. And, when I get a hold of Jan, we'll find out more about that. But I think, at the end of the day, the more diligent we are today, the more we do what we all need to do today. And we focus on, where we want to be and focus on how we want our community to be. We'll get through this. There are some, with as many things that have happened that have not been good. Just from a business perspective, strictly speaking of the businesses, there are many that have been good. Some have really been thriving. There's been new types of businesses opening up, and ones that we're going to see coming in the Lake Minnetonka area. And if there's a business around the Lake Minnetonka area, a locally owned business, support it. Cannot say that enough, because, the old saying, if you don't buy local, then it's buy local. So if you want it around, spend your money there now, show up with your dollars, because there are a few places I know I absolutely need to be around, and some that are even expanding. Look at Ooh La La in Excelsior on Water Street. Connie Frederick, she's got now, I think, 3 spaces. That woman's taken over a block. It's like awesome. Connie Block. They're going to have to call it Ooh La La Block. They're going to have to rename Water Street in Excelsior to Ooh La La Boulevard. I mean, but it's fantastic. And she really pivoted. And, Ooh La La is a great example too. She did a lot of events normally. She was in the state fair. She had multiple events going on. Those were all gone last year, and not to mention as well, and this is public knowledge, and it was unfortunate, Connie had a house fire and lost a ton of her inventory. This woman is my hero, because when I think of an example of when I'm feeling a little like overwhelmed or whatever, I sometimes will think of Connie and like, look at what she's overcome. And she's not just overcome it, she's expanded. She's like, house fire, I'll show you, I'll open a 3rd store. I mean, she's just a machine. And it is where, I do end up getting, in fact, I'm wearing a pair of jeans right now from her store, from the Just Black line.
You have jeans on? That's impressive.
Yeah, I know, I'm wearing pants, because when I'm doing these live, I learned early on that, you should just wear pants. All right, someone told me you need to wear pants. If I'm being honest. So we are going to have you back on, Laura, because we're going to
I
catch up
hope
more. And then we're going to have Bill Wolfson on too. And we're going to talk more about, from the business, commercial real estate perspective, what's happening in and around Lake Minnetonka. Keep your questions coming. You can post them to any of the pages that you're seeing this on. And I'll bring those questions up when I have them on again, or have on other guests. Like I said, I want to get Jan on from the Excelsior-Lake Minnetonka Chamber to talk about upcoming events. If you know of somebody in the community, business owner or individual doing something really cool in the Lake Minnetonka area, reach me through nataliewebsterrealtor.com. Go ahead and shoot me an email. You can find me on my Natalie Webster Realtor page on Facebook as well. I want to know about it. I want to share about it. I want to talk about it. I want to try about it. I want to eat it. I want to sleep in it, whatever it is. I want to share about it. So do reach out, because I'm always looking for things to share about. So Laura, you hang with me when we go off live. Thank you so much. And big mahalo.
Oh, it was so fun. It's so fun just to see your face. And
I know. And one last time, though, before we go, we got to go back and give a little look at
there he is.
Andrew Shue.
Oh, yeah.
He's just so handsome. I just can't even stand it.
Yeah.
And he was here. We had him here. Did we bring him to Excelsior? I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah. We had his party here right in downtown
That's
Excelsior.
Right. So. We did it at Jake O'Connor's. Well, back when it was Jake O'Connor's. Now it's Bull and Finch. I forgot about that. We got to find those pictures. Where are all these photos? I accidentally deleted all my photos a few years ago.
Oh, no.
Like from the cloud. No, it was horrible. Because, I mean, seriously, like my kids are adults now, and I accidentally deleted most of their photos. But at the same time, it was oddly freeing. I mean, now I'm racking them back up, but luckily I had some printed off, and I have some from my children's childhood. But anyways, that's a whole nother thing. So I will hunt you down, Laura, and we'll have you back again. And everybody else, mahalo. Post your questions in the comments and let me know of any topics you want to hear about too. And I will chat with you later.
It was great, Natalie.
Yeah.